From his earliest work on Gen 13 to his stunning Marvel Rivals covers, J. Scott Campbell has built a career as one of the most recognizable artists in comics. His signature style, dynamic characters, and unforgettable cover art has made him a fan favorite for decades. Whether it's Danger Girl, his iconic Mary Jane covers, or his breathtaking Marvel and DC variants, Campbell's work continued to captivate collectors and drive big sales. Today we're looking at some of his most iconic books, plus the big dollar books that collectors can't get enough of. This is Creator Spotlight, J. Scott Campbell. J. Scott Campbell is going to be our creator of choice for today. So we're going to be doing the creator spotlight for J. Scott Campbell. As you could see from the images in front of you, he does have a little library of drawing some beautiful women, right? He's all about the legs, as I would like to say. So what's your thoughts on J. Scott Campbell before we get into this bio?
So as usual, I ran it through my CLZ and cover price because you can search by artist. And I have 92 J. Scott Campbell covers. Most of them are in the Gen 13 run, actually, which we were talking before. I don't think any one of those is bad. I'd have to look closely, but they're all good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my history with J. Scott Campbell goes all the way back to the beginning. So when he came out, he was one of those artists that immediately became a superstar. So he didn't have like this slow time frame to becoming famous. He just shoot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right to the very top. However, he has paid his dues. So I give him that much. As of today, he's predominantly a cover artist. He doesn't do interiors anymore, but he did get his start as an interior artist. He's a cover artist, and he's a great dude overall. Still works today, still throws in. Like I said, he did the Marvel Rivals. We'll look at those very briefly as well. I personally think he's one of the best artists in the business today. I rank him among my top 5 for artists that are out right now. And to think, he started his career in the 90s.
Yeah.
And he's still doing it.
I've been loving his, when he did the issues of X-Men, I think it was X-Men Not Uncanny, but he did the first 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. Great covers. Loved all of them.
All right, let's take an opportunity to take a look at his bio. J. Scott Campbell broke into comics in the mid-1990s after winning a talent contest featured in Wildcats #2, catching the attention of Jim Lee and joining Wildstorm Productions. He co-created Gen 13 for Image Comics before launching his own hit series, Danger Girl, blending action, adventure, and his signature pinup style. His dynamic, highly detailed artwork made him a fan favorite, leading to high-profile cover work for Marvel, DC, and beyond. Campbell's Amazing Spider-Man covers, especially his renditions of Mary Jane Watson, have become iconic. Today, he focuses on exclusive covers, commissions, and special projects, including Marvel variants and a Danger Girl adaptation. So be on the lookout for that. You can find his latest work on jscottcampbell.com. He also has an Instagram page. Great stuff. This is a guy that I don't know of anybody that doesn't like J. Scott Campbell's art style. I really don't. He's like the perfect blend of American manga. So kind of like the next generation of Arthur Adams, but with a touch of Jim Lee included.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If Jim Lee and Arthur Adams had a baby, that baby will be J. Scott Campbell.
You need to clip that and make it into a short.
Go for it. let's start this off because we're going to start it off in the book that I don't think anybody really knows exists.
I love those.
Right? Nintendo Power number 6 from 1989. This is from Nintendo of America. A high sale of this book went for $2,880. That was in 2023. Precisely, it was in July 2020. It took me a minute. Sometimes the numbers don't work all the time. The last sale of this book is $625 and 9.2. Graded copies are going for about $360. On 8.0 is the average. There's no raws. We don't really have any information on raw sales. And there's 144 in the CGC census. This features J. Scott Campbell's published amateur artwork. It's his first published work. He didn't get paid for it, but he got published. And it's in Nintendo Power. Do you remember Nintendo Power?
No, because I did not have any kind of video game system at all.
Really? Oh, you missed out. Nintendo Power was licensed, obviously, by Nintendo. And it was a magazine that was it was a magazine for fans, right? So you also had like secrets, some maps. They always did that. And most of it was subscription based. So I had a subscription to Nintendo Power. And I'm so upset that I no longer have those books.
Yeah, I guess.
So maybe about a few months ago, I go up and I was like, I'm on cover price. I'm looking at Nintendo Power because I noticed that there was a sale of a Nintendo Power magazine for like thousands. And all these books that were issued, Nintendo Power books like the first Super Mario World or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all these books run anywhere between $1,000 to $3,000. So,
why did you get rid of them, Izzy?
Remember we talked about the Turtles for you? What makes it worse for me is that I owned them. Yeah. I owned all those books. And I didn't want to hoard them anymore. I didn't treat them the same way I treat my comic books. So
are you able to tell people what you actually did with them, or is that a therapy thing?
No, they were trashed.
Oh no.
They were recycled.
Oh. I think that's worse than my turtle story.
No, what's worse is looking at them and saying, I had that, I had that, I had that, I had that, I had that. I kid you not, I must have had over $50,000 worth in Nintendo Power books. Because I had them all, because I had a subscription. So, yeah. Poor kids still living in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the image that he did. There it is.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good, right? Now, if you look underneath Super Mario's legs, he's always had that signature. The famous Campbell signature.
Yeah.
There it is. This guy will be a superstar one day. And there was a poster inside the book that you could have had by him, which is his first published work. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is good. That's a good first published work for sure.
Imagine somebody had that in their wall, not knowing who it was.
Somebody probably does.
So yeah, that is fan art. So there you have it. That was his first published work. Let's take a look at his first interior work, and that's Savage Dragon #3. This book came out in 1992 for Image Comics. $77 is a high sale at 9.8, and that was in April 2023. This book last sold for $1. It's a dollar bin book. The raws are going for $2. You can find this in any dollar bin, really. Graded copy. Let's look into this graded copy. $14. It's worth less than sending it to get graded. And there's currently 86 copies in the census. This is considered his first published interior artwork, a sketch that he did of Savage Dragon. Do you have this book? Because I do.
I was obviously around for all of the Image starting up, and I did get a couple of Savage Dragon books, but I never followed it. Like I was more into the Spawn and Gen 13 and things like that and Wildcats. So I kind of never got the Savage Dragon thing, but it was such a cool time. Like, as we're going to see, like he does a sketch in the letters page and they're like, hey, we should get that guy. You know, that's how fast things moved.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that sketch. There it is. Art by Jeffrey Scott. That's right, guys. He went by Jeffrey Scott. Now, do you know why he changed it to J. Scott Campbell?
No, I don't.
So it turns out there's another artist that goes by the name of Jeffrey Scott. And what he decided to do is, instead of doing Jeffrey Scott Campbell, he got rid of the Jeffrey, just went by J. Scott Campbell, and the rest is history. But looking at this image here, I'm going to be very frank. It's not that good.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, as somebody that's sending in something, like I'd say, like fan art wise, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, for fan art, it's better than most fan art. You know?
Yeah.
But look at, man, what's going on with his legs?
Well, he's a dragon, is he?
So he has no tail.
Maybe it's tucked in.
So obviously he was very young when this came out. So when he did this, so he did learn more about it. His anatomy is off in this image, but you could tell the potential is there. And one of the things that the image artists at the time, the image creators had at the time, was they liked to explore new creators. They liked to bring them in young so that they could get rid of any of the habits that they might develop over time. So like someone like myself who is, near 50, they wouldn't like it because I'm loaded with a whole bunch of issues, right? However, if someone comes into the business and let's just say they're 18, 19, it's good time for them to kind of like put them through the gamut, like teach them a little bit more, because they still have the ability to change and not develop those habits that they will develop over time and get better. And in J. Scott Campbell's case, he got better.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That's the Savage Dragon issue number 3. If you have it, open it up, take a look at it. It's a cool little piece to look at. Now, the next book is also a cool book to look at, but don't look at it too long, okay? Because people might say something about it. That's the Homage Studios swimsuit special. Number 1, this book came out in 1993 for Image Comics. A high sale of this book went for $110 at a 9.8, and that was in January 2022. Last sale of this book was $5, and that was just a couple of days ago. The raws are going for $6 at a very fine, while 9.8s are going for $75. As far as the census goes, there are 96 in the census. This features the first interior art by J. Scott Campbell as Jeffrey Scott, and it has 2 pinups and a caricature page featuring artists who work on the issue. I actually do remember that. And it's also the first artwork for Brett Booth as well.
I think Matt just showed off this book last week, didn't he? On Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. He definitely showed off this book. Matt from Heroes for Hire. Go check his stuff out. He does claim sales if you haven't checked his stuff out. Yeah, he did. And does he know?
I don't know. We're gonna have to ask him.
He might not have the book anymore. I know I have a copy of the book. I may have more than one. I'll leave it at that. You see, in 1993, I could buy comic books. I couldn't buy other books, but I could buy comic books.
Yeah.
All right, and there's a nice cover of Voodoo by Jim Lee. So Voodoo, Psylocke, Storm. Who else could it be? It could be anybody.
Yep, any one of them.
It could be any one of them, right? Uh, but it is his first interior work, and he went by Jeffrey Scott. So if you ever see the name Jeffrey Scott, it's most likely J. Scott Campbell. All right, let's take a look at our next book. Gen11, #1. This came out in 1994 for Image Comics. A high sale of this book went for $1,326 at a 9.9. That was in August of 2023. The last sale of this book was $12 at a 9.8. What a difference! The raws are going for $8 near mint, while the graded copy of a 9.8 is $12. There's currently 1,214 copies of this book in the census. This is the first Gen 13 limited series. They did make their first appearance in Deathmate, which was the Valiant Image crossover event. However, this is the first published cover art, and it's the first, won't be the last for J. Scott Campbell. All right. We talked about this before we started the show. If you remember 1994, Gen 13 was massive, huge. Yeah. What can you tell me about that time frame, what you remember?
Well, everything happened with all the creators. They went to Image, and they were like, everybody knows that story. We're out, we're over here, and so they are hungry, right? They want to prove, Marvel was the bad guy, and Spawn comes out. And then they start just releasing all these awesome books, and they made sure that they grabbed your attention. And Gen 13 did. I can even remember back then, like before any kind of internet hype or anything like that, you would walk into the store and you would just get told, you need to buy this book. Like everybody's talking about this book everywhere. It's being ordered, blah, blah, blah. And I liked it.
Yeah, so I remember this book going, the demand for Gen 13 was insane back then. So, kind of like what Marvel Rivals is today, Gen 13 was then. They were originally called Gen X, if you remember. And there was a promo for them as Gen X. Of course, Marvel came in and said, no. One, you can't use the X.
Yeah.
And two, they were also launching Generation X at the same time. So that's kind of like was the discrepancy. So they immediately changed into Gen 13, which is it's a group of teenagers that have special powers. I don't remember much, but it's like the 13 is like a generational thing. So they're like the 13th generation or something like that. Obviously, one of the main characters is Catalina Fairchild, but there's some really cool. There's a character called Grunge. Like it was so 90s. Like Gen 13 was the most 90s you could get as far as the book. But J. Scott Campbell co-created Gen 13. Right? It's an Image property, so that it was a Wildstorm property, so it's now owned by DC. So Gen 13 is now owned by DC, so DC could do whatever they want with it. But he co-created Gen 13 alongside Jim Lee, Brandon Chow, and a couple of other guys that were involved in the process. It immediately gained momentum because of J. Scott Campbell. This like I said before, there was the rare moment where an artist became famous overnight, and J. Scott Campbell became famous overnight because of Gen 13.
Yeah, and part of it obviously is the covers, but what I remember, what the 90s was good for was it wasn't just it was about the covers, but the interior art also had to be top notch. It was rare that you would pick up a book and go, oh, this sucks. Like you picked up this one and opened it up, and the inside was as good as the cover. So it sold more books.
Yeah. And I'm amazed that this book at 9.8 is $12. If I see it for $12, I'm buying it.
Yeah.
Because this was the hottest book at one time. And it still has the potential to be hot again. Even though it's owned by DC, I don't think DC cares as much. But they made an animated series out of Gen 13. That's how big they got. That they got an animated series out of it. And you guys could go check it out. It's on YouTube.
And the you're going to get the first cover art by J. Scott Campbell for $12 for a 9/8. I mean, why wouldn't you do that?
Here's the other thing. Before I even move on to the next book, how is it that a 9.9 goes for well over $1,000, and a 9.8 is 12? Keep your 9.9.
Keep it.
I'll stay with the 9.8. I think I'm okay with the 9.8 if it's $12.
If those numbers like are really panning out, then everybody should be going to buy this book now and send it in a giant stack, hoping for a 9.9.
Imagine we start something and we get a trending list. Get your Gen 13s now, and then it just makes it to the trending list because of us. Guys, you heard it here. Everybody, go buy Gen 13. Buy multiple copies. Let's stir something. Anyway, there's a lot of copies in the census too. Look at that, over 1,000. So it's a popular book. So there you have it, Gen 13 #1 for Image Comics. Let's take a look at our next book, and that's Gen 13 issue number 12. This is 1996 for Image Comics. A high sale of this book went for $300 at 9.8 in March of 2023. Last sale of this book was $8 at a very fine, and that is also the fair market value of this book. 9.8s are going for about $150, so it's half the price now. There's 200 copies in the census. This is kind of the start, right? This is kind of where J. Scott Campbell his artwork is becoming more and more sensual in his style. And what can you say about that cover?
I mean, you're right. He was, I think, all along made to draw Mary Jane.
Yeah. And here's another thing. It's not recognized in this series, but Gen 13 was one of the first books to have variant covers. And if you remember, and I didn't go over the variants, I probably should have, maybe for another time. If you remember the variants, they did a set of variants, and they were kind of ratioed as well. There was a Janet Jackson cover, I remember, and there was like a couple of homage covers. They were very, very popular. Some people had goals of trying to obtain all of them. So be on the lookout for those covers. And you know what? It's on my hunt list for this weekend. Gen 13 covers.
Yeah, this
might be hard though.
I have.
Yeah, it's a cool cover, and again, it is very 90s. You can't get more 90s than that.
No.
All right. Let's take a look at our next book, and that is Gen 13 Generation X #1. This is from 1997 from Image and Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is at $8 at a fine, and that was in July of 2022. Last sale of this book was $6 at a fine. Raws are going for $6. While there's no graded sales, however, there are 26 books in the census. This is a variant cover. We're going to start seeing more variant covers when we get into J. Scott Campbell, because that's pretty much what he does now. However, what's interesting enough about this book is that he's notorious for doing Gen 13. They give the art chore to Art Adams, so I'm not complaining about that. Art Adams is my favorite artist, and it's pretty good. But I feel like we missed out on the opportunity of doing J. Scott Campbell doing Generation X with Gen 13.
Yeah, and this is one that I don't have, so I kind of missed this one. I'll have to look for it as well.
Mm-hmm. I actually don't remember this one. I remember the other one, but I don't remember this one. But it is a J. Scott Campbell cover. It's fine. It's not, it's not like screaming his typical covers, but it's a cool book to have. And like I said, I have the original, the cover A. This is a variant cover that he did. Let's take a look at our next book. Danger Girl #1. This is the Chromium A Go-Go cover. 1998 for Image Comics. The high sale of this book is $450 at 9.8, and that was February of this year. All right. However, the last sale of this book was $90, and the book graded goes for about $333, while the raws are going for $71. There's currently 301 in the census. And like I said, this is a variant edition of Danger Girl. Danger Girl was pretty popular because it was, again, it was what Image was doing at this time is that they were launching subdivisions. And Cliffhanger was a subdivision. It was kind of like our new Young Guns of Image. And he was part of that Young Guns group. Him, Herberto Ramos, and some upstart named Joe Mandarin. All of them were doing their things, and they started. Cliffhanger didn't really go anywhere, but when it came out, it was pretty hot. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of Danger Girl #1? Shane, what's your thoughts?
So I remember this coming out. I just never picked it up, and I wouldn't be able to tell you why, but it was probably had to do with I just didn't have the money at the time. Mm-hmm. But I do remember these coming on the shelves, and they always look great.
Mm-hmm. Danger Girl was kind of like, what if it was kind of, if I remember it correctly, it was more like a James Bond, Charlie's Angels type of book. It was definitely spy thriller. And there were some cool characters, and every character was very distinct in the way she looked. So you had the typical Danger Girl, and then you had like the Russian girl, and then you had the other girl with the brunette. So very much in that style of, like Charlie's Angels, where everybody has a distinct look, right? Danger Girl was pretty much the same thing, and it was a fun story. And as we mentioned before, Danger Girl is something that J. Scott Campbell is very passionate. It is his project, so he has creator rights to Danger Girl. So he wants to get it optioned somehow. Nothing has happened yet, but he's still working on it. The day may come. So be on the lookout for these Danger Girl covers while they're still affordable, because if it does happen, people are going to go hunt them down. Let's go to our next book, and that is Danger Girl #2. This is the Smoking Gun Ruby Red variant. So there's plenty of variants of Danger Girl #2, but this is the one that really stands out. This came out in 1998 for Image Comics. Get ready. $7,000. And there is raws. The raws going for $1,300. There's only 46 in the census. That's some cover.
Oh my God. $7,000. That's crazy.
Yep, for 9.8. Obviously, there was a special edition Ruby. It's called the Ruby Red variant. I don't know how it was distributed. I don't know anything on the subject matter or anything like that. All I know is that it's a $7,000 book. Do you wish you had it now?
Of course, yeah. But I would sell it. I would.
You would sell it. Yeah. Yeah. It's a cool book to put up in the shelf somewhere.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Especially with a pose like that. So if you guys have it, you got a $7,000 book if it's a 9.8. If you just have it, it's $1,000 book. So be on the lookout for Danger Girl, the Ruby Red variant. If I see that book and the guy tries to sell it to me for like $100, I'll give him the $100.
Yeah, me too.
And then I'll go to eBay and sell it.
Right, exactly.
So there you have it. Let's go with our next book. Daredevil #2. This was a little more affordable. This book came out in 1998 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $100 and 9.8, and that was in March of last year. Last sale of this book was $6. The raws are going for $7, very fine, while graded copies go for $69. There are currently 185 copies in the census. This is a variant of the Marvel Knights series, Daredevil #2. This is from the Marvel Knights run that Joe Quesada was part of. This was a very important series. I happen to have a copy of this book, and it's a very rare first Marvel J. Scott Campbell cover.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I haven't seen this one before either, but $6. I mean, again, I'll be looking for it Wednesday.
And it's his first published work under the Marvel banner outside of the Gen X cover. So the Gen X cover counts as his first. There's also a Wizard cover that has him drawing Spider-Man. But in Marvel proper, outside of crossovers, this is his first one. Which I'm a little shocked with the price.
We know you have the Wizard book.
Oh, I do have the Wizard one. But what's really cool about that one, it's Spider-Man and Spawn.
Oh,
together. So that's the cool thing about that book. All right. This one is very affordable. It's one of the early variants. So this is when the variant games is starting to happen. It's not an incentive. It probably would have been an incentive if they knew how to do that back then. But it is a book worth checking out. And if you have it, grab it, man. It's some of his early Marvel work. This is actually his first proper Marvel comic. Let's move on to our next book, and that is Batman 563 for DC Comics in 1999. Again, this book had a high sale of $100, like the previous book, at a 9.8, and that was in July of 2018. Last sale of this book was $10 at a no grade. However, the raws are going for about $10, very fine. Graded copies go for $66. It's only 135 copies in the census. This is his first DC Comics cover art featuring the Joker. I'm going to be very frank. I said this before, and I'll say it again. I am not feeling this Joker.
Well, I wish this one was worth $7,000 because I have it.
What are your thoughts on his rendition of Joker here?
I don't mind it. I kind of like the take on his face, like how it's, a little bit more crazy, chaotic than usual.
Yeah. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. Like, he's done better Jokers in the future. I'm not feeling the hair. His outfit in itself has this very odd look and feel to it. Maybe that's what it is. It's fine. Yeah, it's a hipster Joker at best. But it is his first DC work. So you got that going for you. Let's move on to our next one. Amazing Spider-Man 30. This came out in 2001 from Marvel Comics. A high sale of this book was $660 at a 9.9, which is actually pretty good for that kind of price. Last sale of this book was $39 at a very fine, and that was in February. The raws go for $14. 9.8s go for $115. There's currently 1,895 copies in the census. This is the first appearance of Morlor and Ezekiel, so there's some key significance to that book outside of Campbell. But it is his first Spider-Man cover for Marvel.
Kind of like a shiny version of McFarlane art.
It's very McFarlane. Very McFarlane. Especially the way he draws the faces of the criminals.
Yeah.
They look very McFarlane. So I remember getting this book. I do have a copy of this book. In fact, I got a copy in the entire run of this Spider-Man. And there was talks of him doing interior work. For some reason or another, it never happened. I think he got into an accident or something like that, and they halted, and it just never happened. He just went to doing straight covers. However, if you look at the run, this run was done with John Romita Jr. was doing most of the interior work. It was the first J. Michael Straczynski run, and they gave it to Campbell to do the cover. So they had a lot of hope in this book. They were like, we're gonna throw in all our eggs in the basket for this one. And it was definitely a good run. The whole Morlor Ezekiel story was done. It was interesting. It was different. It changed something to the Spider-Man mythos that some people weren't too crazy about, but I personally loved it. And I think it was John Romita Jr.'s best work ever. That's the hype. That's his hype to me, because he was really, really putting in the effort in these books, and it showed.
Yeah,
and this is the start of that cover.
Yeah, and there's about 11 covers that he did for this run that I have anyway. So
Yeah.
if you want some good Campbell art, you can probably pick those up, and they're probably not that much.
Yeah, they're all going to range around the $15 to $30 range, with the exception of some other books, some outliers. We'll get to those too, but there are some really good covers at really good prices, and there are plenty of Mary Jane covers as well.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at our next book. Instead, we're going to just take a look at some books, and that's the Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. I'm not going to go over the prices, but each one of these books run for about $50, and it's a connecting cover featuring the 3 horror icons. This is cool. This to me is awesome.
I think it's fun. I'm a huge Freddy fan, though, more than the other two.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the Freddy versus Jason. If you haven't watched it, probably one of the best promos you can watch. If you're a boxing or wrestling fan, you should definitely check it out. Just Google it, because it's the announcer announcing them, and it's awesome. It's so good.
Yeah. So it's not only that it has Freddy versus Jason, which was a big deal. They threw in Ash too. So this is just super cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you want to get the set, it's gonna cost you anywhere between $100 to $150 if you want the set, because each book goes about $50 at high grade. So go check them out. It's cool to have it. This is the kind of stuff that if I had it, I'll get all 3, and then I will get them all graded. But I'll also try to get them all signed too, just for the fun of it. You know what I mean? Let's go ahead in our next line of books, and that's Black Panther #1. This book came out in 2009 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $836, and that was September 21. Last sale of this book was $60 at a 9.0. This book goes for about $23 near mint. However, 9.8s go for $143. There's currently 718 copies in the census. This is the first cover appearance of Shuri as the Black Panther, but it's also worth noting there's a variant that has a misprint, which is a roaming dot. And that one goes for about $1,250. What does a roaming dot look like? I don't know, because I did not see it.
Yeah.
But if it has a dot that is roaming, you have yourself a $1,000 book.
Yeah. And I thought I owned this one, but I guess I don't. But it's a great cover.
Yeah, I believe I do have a copy of this one, but I don't know which one. I don't know if I have a roaming dot. I'm gonna have to go back and look and see for myself. Chances are I'll probably did the stupid move of I sold it at one time or something like that. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know, but it's Shuri as Black Panther. This is the first time we see her as Black Panther. She doesn't don the costume to like issue 8 though, but this is the first cover. Pretty good cover. What do you think?
Yeah, I love this cover.
This is the Shuri I wanted to see. It's slightly different now, but anyway, there you have Black Panther #1. Our next book, Uncanny X-Men 510. This is the Campbell black and white variant. Well, it's a sketch color variant. It came out 2009 from Marvel Comics. Okay, I'm gonna take this with a deep breath. This book sold for $16,800 in a 9.8. Take a deep breath. Relax.
I don't own it. No, I'm sad.
I feel like we're doing the top sales, the monthly sales when we go over these numbers. But when I saw this book and I saw the price tag that it had, I went, what? And why? So obviously there's a very, very low print run of this book. What it is exactly, I don't know. I don't have the information on that. I did some digging off of it, but I don't have it. However, if you have this raw and you have a near mint value of this book raw, it's currently going for $3,700. And you could tell there's not that many because there's only 64 in the census.
Oh. And 510 was near the end of the first volume's run too, because I think they went to 544. So, man,
$16,000. You know, it could have been a 1 in 100, but I don't know.
Just imagine what a 9.9 would go for.
If there is one. I don't think there is one, but imagine if somebody had, if I had this book and I know it's this much, that's like it's getting shipped. What's the fair market value? $400.
Yeah.
Just $400. Don't worry, we'll share for $400. Let's tell them that, right? With CGC. There is a color version, and that one's also high price. However, this is the one that is the ghost. The black and white background colored insert. Don't you just wish you just go into your box and just take a look and see if you have it hiding? That would be nice, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay, enough of us gagaing over this book, and let's go to our next book, and that's the one you've been waiting for. Now it doesn't look as expensive. Amazing Spider-Man 601. This came out in 2009 from Marvel Comics. A high sale of this book was at $699, and that was in November of 2023. Last sale of this book was $203, and that was just a couple of days, actually yesterday, as of this recording. The raws are going for $150 near mint. The 9.8 go for $262. This is a controversial cover by J. Scott Campbell featuring Mary Jane. This, to me, is probably his most iconic cover to date.
Oh, yeah. This one I have, and it's on its way. It's at CGC now to get graded. Plastic cover. I don't remember. I remember, there was some controversy about that actually made the news, but I don't really remember why now. I just think it's still looks great.
Oh, yeah. I have a copy. Currently, my copy's with Rich from Comic Cats Collectible. It's a sharp copy. So it is a 9.8 contender. And the whole purpose is to send it out. So I'll be sending out my copy as well. It's a beautiful cover. It's a controversial cover to the point that in future renditions of it, J. Scott Campbell redid it. And he actually gave the proceeds to a charity, which was really cool.
Yes, I do remember that now that you say that.
So, great book. Awesome book. This is the highlight of his career. I can't think of any book more significant to this one when it comes to his career in comics.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe one of the ones we're going to get to in a bit, I think. But
yeah, and I think this one's bigger than those.
Yeah,
but let's talk about those because 606 is the other one. We're going to talk about the trio of books, right? Of this run that everybody talks about. And that's Amazing Spider-Man 606. This one came out in 2009 for Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is at $430 at 9.8. That was in July of 2016. Would you believe that? Last sale of this book is at $90 near mint. The raws are going for $72, while the graded copies go for about $209. There's currently 2,408 copies of this book in the census, and it is the famous Mary Jane catches Peter and Black Cat kissing.
This is also at CGC right now.
Yep, it is the second book of the trinity of books that everybody loves from this run, right? This book is one of those books that constantly gets homage, right? Why? Because everybody gets shocked that another guy is kissing their girlfriend. So it's a meme. This is a meme. That's what this is. And so that's why it's so famous. But again, it is his first. And I've seen Tyler Kirkman do it, plenty of them. You see other people do plenty of them. There's a famous one now that has Scott Summers having Jean make it out with Emma. You know, people do a lot of, homages to it. However, this is obviously the best one of the bunch. And we're going to talk about the Ultimate Spider-Man ones as well. I love what he did with that one. I think that was cool.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah. So it's time to go to the next one. And it was the very next issue with Amazing Spider-Man 607, 2009 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $399.8, and that was September of 2023. The last sale of this book was $100 at a no grade, and the raws are going for about $80 near mint, while the 9.8 goes for $226. There's 3,129 copies in the census, and this is the famous Pearls cover.
Soon to be 3,130.
And one.
Because
I have a copy of this as well. Okay. From the three, which was your favorite?
Oh, that's a good question. I think probably this one.
I think this was more controversial than the Mary Jane in the couch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because she's wearing Spidey's outfit. Ooh, what's going on here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we got the meow.
What about you?
I love this one. I will have to say Mary Jane waiting in the couch. There's something about that cover that's so iconic that I love. But I love the three of them. I love the other ones too. A lot of people don't even talk about the other ones. They're very inexpensive, but go check out that run. That run has some great covers.
Agreed. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like issue 600 is amazing. There's also a 700 that's great as well. But if you got there, and they're all pretty affordable. So go check out that run because they're all great. These are the ones that get recognized as being the most homage, that they're most iconic. But if you look at the rest of them, they could fall under that same umbrella, in my opinion. That's how good those covers are. So if you have a chance, pick it up. If these books are pretty expensive, and every single one of that I have are pretty high quality. So I'm really happy that I have those books. All right. Let's go to our next book, and that is Siege #3. This is the J. Scott Campbell Deadpool variant. This book came out in 2010 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $4,550. That was in May of 2022. The last sale of this book was $2,500. Near mint are going for $2,000, while 9.8s are going for $3,061. There's currently 146 copies in the census. This is a famous hip hop cover.
Yeah, so you're saying that comic artists can't make money or can't have high sales?
Well, yeah, I don't know about making money, but they can make some high sales.
Yeah.
There's something about J. Scott Campbell that gets people crazy. You know what I mean? Even more so than Todd McFarlane. I said it. Because when he drops a cover, look at this. 4,500?
I know, it's crazy.
You know what I mean? He just keeps cranking them out. I can't go through the whole list of books, but looking at this one, it's like it's a silly silly Deadpool cover, but it's a $4,000 silly Deadpool cover.
Yeah.
Our next book is Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows #1. This is the 1 in 50 Campbell variant. Came out in 2010 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $700 and 9.8, and that was September 2022. The last sale was $200 at a no grain. That was in November. Ross goes for about $45 near mint, while 9.8's go for about $525. There's currently 526 copies in the census. This is a variant cover, but it's also the first appearance of Anna Mae Parker, who will later become Spiderling.
I don't have this one, but I love this cover, and I love this series. I thought it was really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is by far one of the best covers, and what I really love what J. Scott Campbell's doing here is he's kind of telling us a story with these covers, right? Because this is clearly the same scene. He comes home to her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's what makes it so much fun. And as we see, as he continues, he's still telling a story within covers. So that's something that's pretty cool. I think not a lot of people see that in his style, especially when it comes to his Mary Janes and Spider-Mans. But if you put them together, you're starting to see the story come together in regards to her waiting for him to come home. He finally came home, and this is the photo they take together, even though they shouldn't be taking photos with him in costume. It could be cosplay, right?
Yeah.
All right. But it is a great cover. It's a 1 in 50. I do believe there's a version variant as well that's out there. Let's go to our next book, and that is Black Cat #1. This is the San Diego Comic Con 2019 Virgin variant. There is a trade dress, but I figured these numbers are a little more fun to talk about.
Yeah.
The high sale of this book is at $1,026, and that's at a 9.8, and that was September of 2023. Last sale of this book was $550 at 9.8. That also seems to be the fair market value for it as well. It's kind of strange that the Raw went for a fair market value of $576. There are currently 268 copies in the census, and this is just Black Cat's rendition of the same scene. This one doesn't get as much love, I think.
No, and maybe because it was an exclusive, but not sure. I mean, it's a great cover.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great cover. I love the perspective that they did with it, that he did with the style, where everything's the exact opposite, right? Because in the image, it looks like Spider-Man's coming to her as opposed to swinging away from her, what does that mean? And obviously the couch is in a different perspective, so it's kind of like it parallels with it. And her phone's a lot more current than the phone that Mary Jane has.
Right.
Great cover. And yes, it's in perspective with backgrounds. So there you have it. You wanted perspective? You want backgrounds? There you go. He could do it. Okay. Let's go to our next book. And that is X-Men #1, the J. Scott Campbell negative space variant. This is a New York Comic Con exclusive back in 2021. The Raw sold at a high of $750 in November of 2021. Last sale of this book was at $200 in a no grade. And the Raws are going now for $165 near mint, while the grades are going for $235. There are 695 copies in the census. And this feature does have a first appearance. This is part of the Krakoa age. So it's the first team appearance of the X-Men of Krakoa. And it does feature some first appearances, which I don't want to even say their names.
This is one of those covers that I always seem to see at least one at conventions, like up on the wall.
Yeah. It's a pricey book. I like it a lot, and I think it's so cool the way he did the perspective with this one. I don't know if I could chill, that kind of money for it.
No.
It'll be great with a green screen, though. If you green screen this book, it'd be awesome. But I think it's gorgeous. I can't justify spending the money for it personally.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next up, Ultimate Spider-Man #4. This is the J. Scott Campbell Web Store Family Apartment variant. 2024, just came out last year. A high sale, this book sold for $800 at a perfect 10.0 in September of 2024. Last sale was a 9.9 for $203. And the Raws are going for $151. The graded copies are going for $183. This is $334 in the census. This is also the first full appearance of the Earth 6160 Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, and this is the reason I get 2 emails every week from J. Scott Campbell's store. It's because I thought, oh, this is a really cool cover when Ultimate Spider-Man came out.
Mhm.
and I could not get one. They were
Really? I
were
have the whole set.
they
I
were
have the whole set.
yeah, they were gone so fast.
And speaking of the whole set, there you have it. That's the whole set. So he did do a version variant of that same cover because obviously that's his most iconic. And then he did one which is interesting because Tyler Kirkham did the same cover. He homaged the cover maybe a month or two earlier. And J. Scott Campbell was like, no. Let me show you how it's really done.
Yeah.
So he did that. And then, of course, the pearls made it to Mary Jane, which I think is the cutest thing. So I personally love this set. I think it's, again, going back to the whole story aspect. He's telling you a story with this. What's also interesting, and I didn't catch this until now. Look at the family portrait of the sofa. All right. Let me see if you spot. Do you spot something that's a little, not so much the kids? Do you spot something?
No, I can't see it that clear, so no.
Okay. First of all, they upgraded the phone to a tablet.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Peter's petting the cat.
Oh, yeah. And the cat's black and white.
And the cat is black and white. Did we not know something here, Peter? Just say, that's an Easter egg.
Yeah.
That is definitely, and I love that he has the other image in the background, the Kurtman image in the background. That photo is taken from the Kurtman image, which I think is more funny knowing that Kurtman did the homage of the other one. This is layered, man.
Yeah. It's very good.
This is layered stuff, man. This is the kind of stuff that when you see J. Scott Campbell in a convention, you have to ask him questions. You know? And then, of course, he'll probably give you some nonchalant answer like, oh, yeah, I just felt like doing that.
Yeah.
Like, come on, give me something. All right, let's move on to our last set. The set that got away for me. These are the set that just came out. There is no price tags associated with them because they just came out. And these are the Marvel Rivals covers, which really spawned why I did J. Scott Campbell this week. Because the Marvel Rival covers are amazing. I missed out, unfortunately. I set an alarm and it didn't go off. And I'm mad with myself. Because I did set an alarm and it didn't go off. And now I'm going to contact Apple, sue them, so I could get these books.
It'll probably cost you that much.
All I wanted was the Luna Snow, man. The Luna Snow's the third one with Jeff on it. That's all I cared about. Jeff. But they're great. I think the Psylocke one is going to be one of the most popular ones. But I think Jeff is going to be big too. Which was your favorite of the four?
I think I like the Sue Storm one the best.
It's really good. It's really, but this is the example of how good J. Scott Campbell still is. These are amazing covers. And I have to say, he has to have an amazing colorist. Because, first of all, it's still great because his artwork is amazing. But the colorist that he has associated with his work just takes it to another level.
Imagine how much these originals would go for.
Because they are definitely, they're pencil and inked. So good, man. Guys, tell me your thoughts on J. Scott Campbell. Did you like any of the books that we cover here? Is there a book that I didn't cover? Kind of like that one with Wolverine in the middle, but I figured might as well throw that in the image. Let us know in the comments what's your thoughts, and let me know which J. Scott Campbell books you want to have in your collection that you may have or that you don't have. I would love to know. Do you want to get that Wolverine that's worth $17,000 for $30? Who knows? Give me the $30 one. But with that said, we're going to wrap this one up and move on to our next one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more comic content. Check out these other videos for even more insight, and I'll see you at the next one. Excelsior.